Hello, are you here to debate?
Hey, friend. Yeah.
All right. Can I just get your name, age, and pronouns, please?
Uh, yeah. Well, I'm 29. My name is AJ.
All right. AJ, your pronouns?
I don't. I mean, I'm a guy, but he, him. Sure.
All right.
I
And
don't. I don't
AJ,
really.
I'm sorry, go ahead.
Yeah. I. I don't know. I mean, I guess that's a valid question, but
Okay.
so I think you should vote for Trump. I have three things come to mind. I think. Um, you saw 4 years of Trump with no new wars,
It's because we were currently in
and
wars.
we were currently what?
That's because we were currently involved in conflicts during that time. We were in
Yeah,
Afghanistan. We were
for
in. We
many
were
years.
involved in the Syria
No, that's
conflict, and
true.
we were involved in the conflict in Yemen. So both of which Trump continued. So he might not have started a new war. He just continued current wars. But yeah, okay.
Right. Um, right. And I mean, you could say that about any U.S. president that presided over those wars, and we can talk about
Alex Frank
whether we should have gone to war
$7
or not. But
Keep up the amazing work.
um, I think I think it was a good thing that he established the embassy in Israel and strengthened our relationship with the only democracy in the Middle East.
No, I disagree. Establishing the embassy in Israel just furthered Israel's convictions to commit genocide. So I would disagree with that. But okay, what else?
Okay. Well, the third one is the inflation was at a very low. It was very low inflation,
Yeah,
and that's
he inherited low inflation though from Obama. He didn't do anything to make the inflation low. He just inherited a low inflation economy.
well. He maintained. Well, even if he did inherit it, he when he left office, the inflation was incredibly low.
Well, technically, when we look at what Trump did, he engaged in things that created inflation. So, for instance, he inflated gas prices with his OPEC deal. In the last year of Trump's presidency, he convinced OPEC to halt production, which created inflation in gas prices.
Huh.
Yeah,
I'm under the impression, and from my recollection, the gas prices were pretty low under Trump, and they soared over Biden.
they soared because of
Um,
Trump's deal with OPEC. Biden didn't do anything to increase gas prices. Trump's OPEC decision did. Specifically, I think he
um,
had OPEC halt production by what was it, 60%? Don't quote me on that. Let me look up the actual number.
yeah, I'd appreciate if we could look some stuff up. I'm not in front of my computer, but look up some stuff.
I just don't remember the exact number with which Trump had how much he slashed OPEC's production. I think it was by half, if I'm not mistaken. Um, yeah, I think it was
Yeah, I'm
by
not.
I think it was
I'm
by half. I think.
okay. And OPEC, I'm not exactly sure what OPEC is.
OPEC is the
Sounds like a
largest
government
producer
program.
of OPEC is the organization of the petroleum exporting countries. It's like an intergovernment organization that controls gas and controls pricing and controls oil production amongst all the major predominant oil producing countries in the world.
Okay, okay. Interesting. So there was what was it, the Nord Stream pipeline or some sort of pipeline that
The Keystone XL pipeline.
the Keystone XL, that was the American one, right?
No, it more Canadian, but the Nord Stream pipeline is in Russia.
Right, right. Um, he was he was on track, as far as I know, to start fracking and start making America more energy independent as far as like fracking for fuel.
So real quick,
and stuff
the
like that.
Keystone XL pipeline was shut down by the Supreme Court in 2020. So while Trump was in office, the Supreme Court shut down the Keystone XL, the offshoot of the Keystone pipeline, the XL offshoot. And then we currently, under Biden, drill and produce more oil than we did under Trump. Biden sent out more oil leases, approved more drilling leases in his first 2 years of presidency than Trump did his entire 4 years. So we are currently energy independent. We produce more oil now than I think ever have. I could be wrong about ever have, but like at least within the last 10 years, we produce way more oil right now than we have.
Interesting. I'd like to do more research on that because I'm pretty sure we had more imports of oil as opposed to our own.
No, we produce more oil now than we ever have.
Okay, granted. The other thing I heard people talking about universal health care and stuff like that. I really liked Bernie Sanders when he ran in 2016.
Uh-huh.
I liked him a whole lot more than I liked Hillary Clinton. It was horrible, like what happened during that campaign, where he basically was railroaded or pushed out of the Democratic Party.
Okay.
I thought he had a lot of good ideas.
Sure, I
think
agree.
that just shows...
I think what the Democrats did to Bernie Sanders was undemocratic. I agree.
Yeah. Yeah, and I mean, and look at what we're looking at right now, where we had a Democratic candidate in Joe Biden, who, I mean, what do you think about the nomination of Kamala Harris in this, where she was basically appointed the candidacy as opposed to having a primary process?
They don't have to have primary processes. The DNC is a private entity. They're a private business. Unfortunately, they engaged in what is appropriate in their bylaws for electing a new president, which is just seeing who the delegate. When you have an incumbent coming in with a VP, typically that VP is going to get the nomination. They're going to get the remaining delegates, and they did. Harris secured all the delegates. So
it felt to me, watching it in real time, that it was a scramble because of the debate performance by Biden, which I think a lot of Americans speculated that Biden was in mental decline, and it was shown.
I disagree with the assertion that Biden was in mental decline. I think he's just old, and he's doing he's talking and acting how old guys act. I think he was old, and he was up past his bedtime.
And Trump's up there too, but I would say it's a different. He's up there, but I would say it's a different thing with Biden, because he's had like open brain surgery. If that's, I'm pretty sure that's accurate.
Biden has had open brain surgery. Okay.
Yeah, and I mean, his interviews and walking off, straying off, and doing all these things.
Yeah, but he had a aneurysm and then had a surgery decades ago. What does that have to do with how he is now?
But with his old age, I'm saying it probably increased the.
Can I ask
decline.
You a question? Can I ask you a question? You're going to vote for Donald Trump, is that correct?
Probably. I don't think I can bring myself to vote for Harris, just because of I think the media is a big problem, and well, let me tell you this. Harris has the least amount of time in presidential history to make her case to the American people that we should vote for her, right? And she hasn't taken a single interview in 46 days or whatever the day count is right now. One-on-one interview or even a press conference.
Wait. Okay.
to try to do that. And
So a few things.
her policies just came up
Friend.
the other.
Friend, hold on. She did take an interview, even though it wasn't one-on-one. She did do an interview. Second, I don't really care if she does interviews or not, right? Like doing an interview doesn't tell me anything, right? Her policies have been known because she's talked about them, right? She's doing campaign rallies, right? The rallies are, in my opinion, when you only have 4 weeks left or 4 months to campaign, I think campaign rallies are way more important than interview. Actually getting one-on-one interactions with people and getting in talking to people in person, way more important in my opinion.
Mm.
But she also, we did she did an interview. We had a debate. She's trying to set up more debates, even though Trump is flaking on them. Like, she wants to continue talking to the American people. I don't think Kamala Harris is a perfect candidate by any means. I think Kamala Harris has a lot that I disagree with. And if I had my choice, I would vote for neither of them. But if I'm looking at her versus the guy that wants to throw homeless people into internment camps, or the guy that wants to criminalize flag burning, or the guy like remove your Second Amendment and make it illegal for you your First Amendment and make it illegal for you to burn a flag, right? If I'm looking at her versus the guy that like doesn't have a single policy at all, right? I'm gonna go with her.
Mm. Right. I think it's how you prioritize the problems we have in our country right now and how you weigh those things. I think the border is a big issue, and I think maybe she doesn't think it now, but she's flip-flopped on a lot of her policies. But at one point, she said that she wanted to decriminalize border crossings of illegals. She wanted to do a whole bunch of.
Let me ask you a question about the border. Friend. The border. How do you feel about the fact that Donald Trump and JD Vance have made up stories about I feel like if they actually cared about the border and what's going on at the border, they wouldn't make up lies about what's going on from migrants. That all that does is fuel the fire. Right? Vance admitted on national TV that he lied about the cat stories. Like, just admitted that he lied about it. So
yeah, that's not progressive at all. That's not pushing the issue. That's not productive.
So then how do you rationalize voting for them on this issue when they're lying about the issue?
Yeah, the word lie is, thrown around a lot when you're talking politics. And, I think there was a few videos that came out of these Haitian migrants, or, quote unquote Haitian migrants, taking up animals off the street or something like that. But
there weren't. Not only was the lady who started the rumor on Facebook has admitted now to lying, but Vance said on live TV, we made up these stories. He said that verbatim, that we made up the stories. So like, it's just a lie. Also, if we're going to talk about the border, why would you vote for people who refuse to let us pass border legislation? We wrote border legislation, right? It was written by a Trump Republican. So a Trump supporter in I think it's the House was who put it forth. They wrote a policy that all the Republicans were on board with until Trump told them, don't vote for it because I need the border to be bad so I can win my reelection. How do you reconcile this? How do you reconcile that Trump has created first of all, I don't think the border is as big of an issue as he makes it out to be. I think that the numbers that they keep throwing out are completely made up. I don't know where they're getting them from. They're completely fabricated. Nobody in the federal government, nobody at Border Patrol, nobody in the Department of Homeland Security has corroborated the numbers that Trump puts out. But they literally wrote a bill that would give more money to Border Patrol, more money to judges to get through asylum seeker cases, that would restart construction of the wall. And Trump said, don't pass it.
Trump said this when he was in office?
No, he convinced his base in the House not to vote yes on a bill that they were all on board with. He said, don't say yes, because if you say yes, how can I win re-election?
Well, I think when you see headlines of conversations that were had not to the public, I think there's a lot of room for misinformation there. I don't think that I'm not saying it didn't happen, but I can't confirm that it did. And
well, you don't have to. Ted Cruz confirmed that it happened. Ted Cruz was like, yeah, Trump told us not to pass this bill. He told us he didn't want the bill passed.
Well, like the border's been the hot topic for politicians lately. I mean, there's the argument where they're letting illegal migrants in and registering them at the border because they are overwhelmingly to vote Democrat, and they use those votes.
Undocumented immigrants physically cannot register to vote. They do not have a social security number. That is something that you need to vote. They are not citizens. They physically cannot vote. It's impossible for them to vote. And when we look at the last election, right? This was also a claim made during the last election. There's no evidence of mass groups of undocumented immigrants voting. It just doesn't exist. Everybody who has analyzed the last election, from Trump's own heads of Department of what was it? I'm blanking on homie's name. I'm blanking on his name. Whatever. But like every court that's looked at the evidence threw it out. Every one of Trump's own judges were like, no, this isn't happening. They were all tossed with no standing because he had no evidence. His own people were like, no, this didn't happen. The vice president of the time, Mike Pence, was like, no, this didn't happen. Like, there's been no evidence that the Democrats are engaging in this giant conspiracy of voting fraud, right? Especially, we want to talk about like, oh, they're doing voting fraud. If they were really doing it, why would they do it out in the open? Like, everybody, apparently it's this big secret, but we all somehow know about it. Like, that's not how that would work. But like, so I'm like, why are we going to vote for the person? He still hasn't admitted that if he loses this next election, he's going to concede, right? He still has been like, oh, it's probably rigged. Like Trump does this thing where prior to the elections, he likes to plant these little seeds that it's going to be rigged, but it's all a lie. Why am I going to vote for the guy who's lying, just outwardly lying about everything?
Yeah. And I watched the debate, and there was very little done to substantively on any like policy based issues. It was I think that debate was a disaster. But on the border, it's not just that issue. It's also like there's a safety issue as well. I mean, any country, any foreign country that has ill will against the American people or the American government, under an open border policy, can just send whoever to these countries and have them migrate through this border. And right now, federally, when you cross the border and you're picked up by a federal agent, you're basically given a cell phone, you're given a couple $1,000s, you're given all these benefits.
No, you're not. It's not. No, you're not. That's not happening. It's literally not happening.
But
right now, people who are undocumented can apply for some things like cash assistance. They can apply for some things like that. But like this idea that all these people are coming over and getting all these things, it's not happening. And there's no evidence of it happening. It's just repeated falsehoods by the right to try to fearmonger. It's literally fearmongering 101. And honestly, it's a little racist because like the bulk of people that are in this country, quote unquote, illegally, are here on visa overstays. So they are documented. We know who they are. Mm-hmm. We vetted them already. That's how they got the visa in the first place. 60% of all people are here on visa overstays. So we do know who the majority of them are. They're not these mysterious shadow criminals coming from Mexico. No, they're here. They were vetted, they were approved, and they just overstayed their visa.
Right, but I mean, you can look at videos. I mean, it's on YouTube of just waves of people crossing the border. I mean, it's not just people who flew in legally
Yeah,
on
because
visas.
people are going to cross our border all the time because we destabilize their countries. The US goes in, destroys another country, and then the people for that country come here. We want, in fact, America kind of wants them to, because a big portion of our economy is closely tied to the amount of underpaid, undocumented labor that we have. This is our plan. Our plan is we destabilize the country. These people come out, they come to work for us, and then we pay them little pennies on the dollar so that they'll do the labor that our citizens won't do. It's all a plan, and the Republicans engage in it, but they love to run on this idea of like closing the border. Trump didn't close the border. The border's not open. It's never been open. Trump didn't magically close the border, right? The border, like this fabricated border crisis is splitting our country more than like anything I've seen in the last like 5 years.
Well, if I can point out, the Remain in Mexico policy under Trump denied entry into the United States until their asylum claims were confirmed.
The Remain in Mexico policy was only for COVID. It only happened because we were in a time of crisis.
Oh, really? I didn't know that.
Yeah, that's why as soon as the state of emergency was lifted and we were like, okay, COVID's quote unquote over, the Remain in Mexico policy lapsed. And then again, the Republicans had a border bill 10 days later ready to go, until Trump said, don't pass it because I need the border to be bad so I can run on this.
Well, whenever a bill like that's passed, they're packing in a whole bunch of other stuff.
Yeah, of course they pack in. Listen, I get that they pack in other stuff. Okay, it happens all the time, but they wrote it. The Republicans wrote it. They wanted the stuff that was packed into it. The bill was literally written by a Florida Republican representative. Hold on, I'll pull you up his exact name. It was
DeSantis?
No, Representative Mario Diaz Ballard, Florida Republican in the Senate.
Well, I think that's what they've said that they're trying to do, is they're trying to re-implement the Remain in Mexico policy because it was super effective in
they legally can't
solving these issues.
So they legally can't.
Without letting violent immigrants in, or people who are unruly or are going to cause harm. I mean, there's like cases popping up where there's illegals who are causing havoc. I don't think that the majority of migrants are criminals, but there are some and the Remain in Mexico policy is a good deterrent for those people to be let into those cities.
The Remain in Mexico policy physically can't be put in through. We cannot restrict asylum seeking. It's in our Constitution. The only times we can restrict it are at times of crisis like COVID. We physically cannot restrict it. It is written into our Constitution that we cannot abridge the right to seek asylum. And in fact, the Supreme Court,
but we do have the right to enforce our borders. We do have that right.
Enforcing our borders in asylum are two different things. We don't have open borders, friend. Our borders are not open. We've never had open borders.
Right, but when a migrant comes in, they get a court date. If they come in seeking asylum, right? They come in, they seek asylum, they get a court date, and then they're let into the country until that court date comes months later, right? So they're basically living in the country on an asylum claim that hasn't been verified yet.
Before they even get into the country, they have to demonstrate that it's dangerous for them to go somewhere else.
Right. And that process takes months and months. And during that time, without the Remain in Mexico policy, they're let into the country during that.
Wait, the Remain in Mexico policy, didn't stop this from happening. It just limited the number of people we let in. It didn't stop people from coming in. We still let them in. It just limited the number. It limited the number per day that we could let in. They were still coming in through a legal process that we have had implemented for years. And if your issue is with the fact that we can't get through these cases because there's so many, why did the Republicans vote against a bill that was going to give us money for more judges so we could get through our backlog of these cases?
Right. I think politics is as divided as ever. I think there's like very little that, I think in the old days, I think that there was always like some sort of like, all right, we want our country to do good. We want our country to succeed. Like at the end of the day, we want to do good as a country. And like, I think it's just been so divided. We have so like different ideas, and the media is not helping at all. You have misinformation on both sides. It's hard to get the real facts of what's going on. But end of the day, I think that a Trump administration is gonna do better on the border, just because.
With
just
what?
because
But
Harris,
with what policy? With what policy?
What policy?
Wait, what policy can Trump put forward that's going to be better for the border than what we currently have? Like, what is his policy about it?
The Remain in Mexico policy.
He can't pass that. It's
would be
unconstitutional. He can't re-implement it. The Supreme Court has already ruled on this. He cannot re-implement it. Physically can't re-implement the Remain in Mexico policy. It's unconstitutional.
Mm-hmm.
So what is he going to do?
I mean,
unless you're just okay with him like going against the Constitution.
Well, I think there's ways around that, and I think both parties. They can exert executive powers to do certain things. There's ways around the Constitution. They can implement a bill. It can implement an amendment. They can issue a state of national emergency if it. We've had record numbers of illegal migration in the past 2.5 years.
No, we haven't. It's been 2.6 million have entered illegally under the Biden administration, and then asylum seekers, which your issue is with, has been 60,000 per year. Not 60,000 per year. It was 60,000 last year. The year before that was 25,000. The year before that was 25,000, and the year before that was like 12,000. So it's not even like a mass amount of people are entering here as asylum seekers. So no, this crisis is fabricated, friend. It's fabricated.
I think if you look up the amount of migrants that came over, I think it would have increased over the past 3.5 years under Biden.
Wait, again, in 2023, okay. The amount. Hold on, I had these numbers earlier. We only admitted 60,000 in 2023. 60,000. Where's the crisis?
No, it's got to be in the millions.
It's not, friend. It's not. These are numbers directly from the Department of Homeland Security. It's not in the millions. There might be a total number in the millions, right? There might be a total, like the total amount that are waiting for court cases to go through. But again, the Republicans denied the money for the judges to get through the cases. So you have all these people sitting here waiting, and the Republicans are doing nothing about it. They're not doing anything to let them to help them in.
Right. Well,
in fact, even that's not in the millions. There are only 800,000 applications pending. As of 2023, there were 800,000 applications pending. I don't know how many it is now. I think it's it might be 1.5 million applications pending. But like, just because the applications are pending doesn't mean that we're letting in these mass amounts of people, right? We need to get through the asylum applications, but we're not, because we turned down the money.
So you think you don't think that the illegal migrant is a problem? You don't think the border is a problem?
No, I think the border crisis is an artificial problem created by the Republicans to drum up votes. It's fear mongering. They're fear mongering people into voting for them because they've made up this fictional border crisis that isn't actually real.
Okay, well, I think there's levels to it, and I think you have to have borders as a country to. If you want to be a country, you have to have borders. And there's people on the left
No
that
Democrat has
don't want
ever.
borders,
No Democrat.
and people on the right.
Wait, I'm sorry. I'm on the left. I think countries shouldn't exist. Period. But there's not a single Democrat in office who has made the claim that we should open up the borders. It's not a single one.
AOC wants open borders. I mean, there's a lot of people on the left that want open borders that are in Congress right now.
When has AOC said she wanted to open the borders?
She says it constantly. She says
when?
She says it openly.
When?
Kamala Harris herself said that she wanted to legalize or decriminalize illegal border crossing.
Wait, decriminalizing border crossings is not opening the border.
Okay, well, she's pretty radical on the border. She wants to let people in without consequence. She wants to provide taxpayer-funded programs for these people.
No, she doesn't.
She's gone as far as saying that she wants taxpayer-funded sex change operations for illegal migrants that come into the country. And is that a good use of our taxpayer dollars? I don't think so.
Friend, what she has called for is that people who are in prison, whether they are undocumented or not, are now wards of the state. They are now the state's responsibility. And some of these people are going to be transgender, and some of these people are going to need health care, and that we should give them health care because we took the responsibility of jailing them. They're wards of the state now. That's what happens when you're in prison. When you're in prison, the government has to provide you health care.
Right, but if you come into the country and you expect to get these benefits, you need to prove that you're going to be a productive citizen for the country. You're going to have to
I think undocumented immigrants have already proved that. Undocumented immigrants have already proved that. They pay almost $100 billion in taxes every year. They've already proved that they're productive members of society.
Right. I'm just saying there should be a process to come in legally. And that's what Donald Trump says. And, I think it's pretty commonsensical to have a process to come in legally and to punish people that come in illegally. And I think that does a disservice to people that did go through the legal process to come into the country, and it grants immunity to the people that didn't.
Wait, but you don't actually care about them doing the right process because you vilify asylum seekers who are doing it legally. So you don't actually care about whether it's legal or not, because asylum seekers are all here legally. They've gone through the proper process that you said that they should. But you're also now
the asylum seeking claim is a loophole to get into the country.
No, it's not a loophole. It's about refugees, right? When areas around the world are destabilized, especially by us, and you have mass amounts of refugees, those refugees need a place to go. The asylum seekers have the right to seek it. It's in our Constitution.
It is not a constitutional right of foreign migrants to claim asylum in our country. We can decline their claim to seek asylum.
It is absolutely
especially
an
if
enshrined
their
right
claims
in
are
our
not
country.
valid. And the majority of asylum seekers, not all, but most, do not have valid claims of asylum, and we're letting them in anyway.
Wait, who are you
And
to
who
say they
knows
don't
who
have?
these people are? We don't know who these people
Wait,
are.
who are you to say they don't have valid claims of asylum? Who are you to make that claim? You're just making things up.
Well, we don't know. That's the problem. But they're here in our country anyway. That's the problem.
All that's happening right now is you're using speculation to fearmonger. That's it. You're speculating and you're fearmongering.
Well, I mean, when you said earlier, you said that the United States goes in and destabilizes countries. They've done that before. I mean, that's 100%.
We do that all the time. It's the oldest American pastime.
We haven't made a lot of friends. There's a lot of countries out there who have serious gripes with America, and when they see this loophole and there's this process that they can put people in, like, right, so like, and you see these cases, you see in New York, you see in a lot of different places where illegal migrants they're killing cops,
No, they're
committing
not.
atrocities.
U.S. citizens kill cops. U.S. citizens do it all the time. U.S. citizens commit atrocities. You don't have an issue with these things happening, right? Because it happens, right? It's gonna happen whether we ban illegal immigrants completely or not. Those crimes are still gonna happen. The undocumented people, like what? Like, it's just so crazy. It's fear mongering. That's all it is, friend. That's all you're doing. To the point where we make up stories, which I've shown to you. They make up stories, okay? They make up stories about these migrants to fearmonger. Migrants were not eating pets. It was a lie that the Trump administration, with specifically from J.D. Vance and Trump himself, perpetrated, knowing it was a lie, knowing it was not true, knowing it was made up. They said these things live on air. Like, said it on TV, national TV, towards millions of people. They lied.
And that's not productive. I mean, there's all sorts of stuff on the internet and online, and I think they took that story at face value, and yeah, it wasn't a great look for them to do that. And it doesn't sound good.
You're falling for it on every other thing. You think that's the only time they lied about what migrants are doing? They do it consistently. And every time you go to these places where this is happening, right? For instance, they made up this lie that migrants took over apartment buildings and ruined those apartment buildings and forced people out of them. But then when we went and actually looked at what was happening was these apartments were owned by slumlords who were like treating these buildings like they were fucking biohazards. So people were leaving because they didn't want to live in slums because their landlords weren't doing anything about helping the buildings be maintained. But then all of a sudden, like, there's one instance of migrants with guns in these apartments, which, by the way, the cops only said that about only 10 people, it seemed, were in connection with some migrant gang of all these like apartment takeovers. They only found 10 people that might be connected to gangs. But instead, we spin it that these migrants are taking over and destroying these apartments. It's just nothing but fear mongering. It's propaganda, and you're falling for it.
I mean, on the border, I think that, like, bottom line, I think there should be a process to come in.
There is.
That's just what I think.
There currently is.
I know, yeah. Well, we should uphold that.
We do.
And, if someone wants to come in without doing the process, they should be not let in.
There is a process.
And decriminalizing that is going to let them in.
No, decriminalizing that is not going to throw them into U.S. prisons. We're just going to send them back.
Yeah, send them back. Exactly.
That's what
Send
decriminalizing
them
would
back,
do.
not let
If
them
we
in.
criminalize it, we
Yeah,
have
no,
to
we're not
throw
gonna
them
we're
into
not gonna
prison.
imprison them. We're not gonna imprison
That's
them
what
here just because
criminalizing would
cross
do.
the border.
Criminalizing would be throwing them into prison. Decriminalizing would be sending them back.
Okay, well. Anyway, the other thing is on the topic of universal health care and whatnot. You know, that would be a very different policy change as far as for Americans. But I know one thing Trump was talking about doing was he wanted to increase he signed a bill, a bill to um, increase competition between hospitals or something. Like if you want an MRI at this hospital, it costs you $3,000. They were allowed to. Another hospital can have an MRI for 2,000. So you can change your hospital and get a better deal, and that would lower prices. So what do you think about that?
I think it's mostly shallow. I think Trump has been promising a repeal and replacement of the ACA for almost 10 years now and has done nothing. He's done effectively nothing, especially when he removes federal what is it? He wants to remove like the federal government's ability to what's the word I'm looking for? Not legislate. My brain is fucking fogged after 40 minutes. Regulate. He wants to remove the federal government's ability to regulate healthcare in general. That's why they target the FDA. That's why they've been targeting OSHA. That's why they've been targeting all of these other things. So cool. He signs an executive order to try to protect or to try to modify the way that you engage in pricing with hospitals. But what does that do for the people who are uninsured? They're still paying a buttload of money for treatment.
Well, Trump is not in power right now, so he can't really do anything.
He had 4
you're
years.
talking about.
He had 4 years. He promised us a repeal and replacement of the ACA in his first year in office. He had 4 years to do it. He still doesn't have a plan. There is still no Trump healthcare plan. He even said himself, he has concepts. I have concepts of a plan.
Well, there's a law in hospitals where you're not allowed to have a different price for a certain procedure at a different hospital. So you can't go to another hospital for a better price. And I think that's one of his policies that he's put forth to have competition between hospitals that would drive down prices.
Except it hasn't
driven down prices. Pay more for.
It has not driven down prices.
Well, it will once it gets implemented, because right now
it was implemented. He signed this via executive order in 2019. I'm sorry, 2017. 2017. My apologies. He signed this as an executive order in 2017. So why have prices not lowered? Why didn't they lower during the 3 years post 20? I'm sorry. Why didn't they lower from 2017 onward during his presidency?
As far as I know, it's not been implemented yet, and it's still at a base rate for, say, for example, MRI procedures. And
okay, so let's say it wasn't implemented, even though Executive Order 813 is the Promoting Healthcare Choice and Competition Executive Order. Let's say it's not implemented. Why? Trump had a majority, he had a supermajority, he had both the House and the Senate. Why couldn't he get this done?
Good question. I don't know the answer to that question.
It seems like, why vote for the person that can't get things done? Why would I vote for, like, I don't know, I'd consider that a loser, right? Somebody who has control of this House and the Senate but still can't get bills passed, I'd call that a loser. So why would I vote for the loser?
I mean, that's one way to put it, I guess. There's a lot that goes into, I guess, maybe just didn't get to it, but
he didn't maybe he just didn't get to it. Friend, come on.
Yeah, I mean, you got to look at what was going on at the time, right? And at the time, maybe it wasn't a pertinent issue, you know.
Again,
I really don't have a good answer
the
to that
main.
question.
It was one of the main things he campaigned on.
He should have done it when he had both the House and the Senate. Yeah.
Yeah, it was one of the main things he campaigned on.
Yeah.
But was there anything else?
You know, I think it's one of those things, but hey, look, I got to run though. You know, I just wanted to bring those sort of throw those out there. I mean, he strengthened our relationship with Israel. Israel is a very important relationship to America, I think. You know, Harris, she bailed out on the
From
on
the river to the sea, bro.
Netanyahu's.
Fuck out of here with that bullshit.